Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Nobody Ask Me Guys show. Guys, listen, I'm your host, Melvin Casey Lars, and as always, we have exciting guests to talk with you. Now, listen, you are going to be in for a treat. We have with us none other than Mr. Willie O. Davis, and I'm going to call him the graphic artist of artists, and he's going to be sharing with you all of, I would say, tidbits of his career, how he got started, the progression in which he moved forward, etc. And those of you that's always in my guest, well, thank you guys for being glad you're here. And my regular guests always know how I am, and I'm always ranting to you, especially as what we are labeled as African Americans is that we do not honor our own enough. However, on the Nobody Asked Me Guys show, that is how we rock it. We always make sure to honor our own. So again, tonight, we're honoring Mr. Willie O. Davis. We'll be speaking with him, or more openly, he'll be speaking with us. Now, I'm going to share with you a little bit about Mr. William O. Davis, and then he's going to share with you. Now, Willie O. Davis was born in Monroe, Louisiana. He graduated from Carroll High School and went to California to attend the California College of Arts and Crafts at Berkeley, California. Now, upon graduating from the college with a BFA degree, his graphic skill was utilized at a commercial art studio in San Francisco, San Francisco, California, and also at Macy's department store in the newspaper advertising department. He later moved to Oxnard, California to start a career at the Naval Missile Test Center in Point Mugu, California, in the Visual Communications Department. The transformation of the organization's design, layout, illustration, and publication production methods from the traditional processes to the unique capabilities of pixel-based digital graphics was his responsibility. His professional career was a rewarding one and retired in a managerial position. Now, Davis has received a number of awards in national and international art competitions during his civil service career. He received a certificate in publications from the Society of Federal Artists and Designers in Washington, D.C., a certificate of merit at the Annual Society of Technical Communications art show held in Huntsville, Alabama, and he received a certificate for a publication cover from the International Technical Art exhibited in Washington, D.C. Davis's paintings are created digitally on the computer, and he is focused on exploring the digital media as a tool for creative expressions. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as we have shared earlier, we will be speaking with none other than Mr. Willie O. Davis. Mr. Davis, good evening, sir.
Hello, how you doing?
Well, listen, we are glad that you're here, sir. And as I see Don Sinconi is here to join you. I know he's a very dear friend, and we've seen a picture that you shared with us when you guys were my grandmother used to call it just knee high to ducks, and
Yeah.
been together for a long time, and we're happy that he's here. And of course, our guest is always here, and we thank you so very much, guys, as you are loyal and faithful fans of the Nobody Asked Me Guys show. And believe me, your attendance is premium and very much appreciated and is never taken for granted. Mr. Davis, if you will, sir, if you would share with us a little more about Mr. Will Davis and your journey, please do so, sir.
Yes. Uh, when I was a little kid there, and I had to draw pictures. Uh, and my father was a good artist too, and I didn't know how to draw at that time, so I would have him draw. And he worked at night, so that meant I had to either get up early in the morning so he could help me draw, the pictures of a dog or whatever. And I decided, well, he's busy because he works at night and everything, so maybe I should try to learn how to draw myself. So I started off drawing all kinds of things and drawing pictures. Then when I was in about the fifth grade, I went to the art supply store and I picked up a book on how to draw figures. But I drew this nude figure of a lady out of that book and took it to school. So at that time, Principal uh, Henry Carroll he was the principal, and so the teacher took me to the principal's office for drawing this new picture. And he sat there and looked at that picture, and he looked at me, and he decided, well, I don't want to really mess up your mind, since you're kind of exploring this art thing. When you draw pictures like that, you keep them at home. I said, okay. I said, okay, because at that time, you get a good whipping when you were called to the principal's office and you did something wrong, you were in deep trouble. But anyway, and later on at Monroe Colored, that was at Monroe Colored High anyway. But Monroe Colored High, we participated in the scholastic program, and all of the students in whatever biology, speech, literature, and participate in everything. And so we would draw these paintings and paint the paintings and draw pictures and have them in the competition. And then we would win first place, second place, third place, and that was kind of fun. And Don is sitting there. He was part of that activity too. Then we moved on to Carroll High, and and Principal Carroll said, "Well, we don't teach art here at the school, but what I'm going to do is we'll give you a room, and then you and whatever other students want to join you, we'll buy all the supplies, the paint, the canvases, paper, whatever, and then you guys can just have at it." So we all got together, and that was our activity at that school. Then in 1953, I graduated from Carroll High, and in the meantime, I was in the hospital several times playing at Monroe Colored High. I played sandlot football, and I got my hip knocked out of place, and my hip stayed out of place a year before I knew it was out of place. I was walking around, and then pretty soon started to hurt again. My mother took me to the doctor, and the orthopedic doctor that did the surgery, they said, well, we got to remove the head of your femur, and then we have to see what else we can do. So they were exploring this surgery, hip surgery, which we know today is just a breeze. You go in, you're out in the next day. So they removed the femur head and put in this steel rod in my shaft, in the shaft of the bone. And I walked around with that for quite a number of years. And but I knew eventually I was going to have surgery again. So that was my main goal, to get when my career is wherever I'm going to work, I want to make sure I got good insurance, because these surgeries are going to have to take place. So then after that, I went on to the doctor. The doctor said, the reason I'm going to give you this scholarship, because you've been participating in our program, and we're trying to learn how to do this surgery, and so we're going to give you a scholarship. So they gave me this scholarship. They paid for me to go to the California College of the Arts, and which was a lot of money to go to that school. When I got there, a lot of the students was kind of I would say on the wealthy side. One of the students, his father was a banker, and his father collected antique cars. And this particular student would drive up to my classroom door and honk that squeeze bulb on the car, because that was that old-fashioned car with the spoke wheels and everything, where the people used to have to wear goggles and canvas cap and the canvas jacket and gloves and all that stuff. That's the way the car was, didn't have a top on it, so you didn't drive like that. And he'd come up and blow that horn. Come on out, Willie, we're gonna go for a ride. So I get in his old antique car, and we go down to Berkeley and ride all around and everything, come back. And but anyway, he later on in years, I kept in contact with everybody, and he died. So, but before he died, he was real ill, and I decided to buy him something as a gift. So I asked his wife, I said, what would he really like? And she said, he likes cookies. So I had to go online. I found a place that manufactured these cookies, and I wanted the packaging to be perfect and outstanding, the cookies to taste good and everything. So I got these cookies together and sent them to him, and then he thought that was the most amazing thing on earth that I would send him these cookies and everything. Then there was another student that his father was an interior decorator, and he was going to take over his business. But anyway, the guy that I said his father was a banker, he only went to that school because it was fun, and so he didn't even do art, none. He went into banking, and when he graduated, he just went to banking, and that was the end of that. And but anyway, the other guy, his father was an interior decorator, so he took over his business and everything was. So there was a lot of at the time, I guess the GIs from the military through the Korean War and all that, they owned the GI Bill. They also went to that school. After I graduated in 1957 from the California College of the Arts, I went and worked at the Commercial Art Studio in San Francisco, and that place was they did all kinds of work for different agencies around town. And at the time, BBD&O was the main agency, big agency that everybody tried to get work from whenever they needed to. And then I stayed there for about a year, and then the recession came, and then I was out of work. I was last hired and then first fired. and then I went on to Macy's department store, and I worked there for a little while. The guy that hired me there, he said, now we have a tremendous amount of turnover here, and you got to promise me that you won't leave. He said that if you we're going to give you this job, but we need you to stay. And about two months later, I said, I have some bad news. I know I promised I was going to stay, but I have this opening for a job at Point Magoo, and I need to go and see what this job is really all about. And so the guy said, okay, this is what we're going to do. You go check out the job. If you like it, call me back and say you're going to stay. If you don't, you come back, you still got a job. I said, that was great. And so I went on to Point Magoo, and sure enough, the person that was hiring me there, he said, we have this opportunity to change the way federal government produces its art for presentations and publications and everything. And we need you to be part of that program. And so I said, okay. So I stayed and worked there, worked at Point Magoo. That's where I finally did my thing. But in job searching, this is before Magoo now. I'm going back a little bit. In job searching, I went to various places to look for jobs, and Treasure Island was one. That's that island in between Oakland and San Francisco. It was a military facility at one time, and then now I think it's like a shopping center, and everybody go there to shopping center. But when I went to go for the interview, one man came down to the gate to carry me to the main office, and he said, now you're going to go in for this interview, but the job is already taken because my boss wants to hire one of his friends, and I have a friend that I'd like to have this job, and so he's telling me all of this stuff. So we go on down in the main boss there. He said they interview me, and we talk, and they show me around all over the place, and then I left, and I knew I wasn't going to get the job because he already told me. In the second job.
Well, may I interrupt you here just for a quick moment? As you were going through that process, and you had the guy, well, at least he was honest, sharing with you that they wanted you to go through the interview process. However, you would not get the job. Do you feel that had any effect on you as a professional, as far as your interviewing skill, or that you do be who you were, knowing that you, and this is good because I have a lot of young people listening, or that you feel very strongly that if you did a top-notch interview, maybe they might change their mind.
Uh, well, in this particular case, I don't think there would be any change in mind. The person had a friend. Okay, it's required that they have the interview. Okay, they can't just go give the job to the friend without other people being interviewed. That's the problem there. Because the next story I'm going to tell you is similar to that one, but it's more complicated than what I'm talking about. But no, it didn't bother me that it meant I just need to keep looking, because I was looking for a certain kind of a place to work, and insurance. Got to remember that was paramount. I mean, I got to make sure I have insurance in case my hip decides to go out. And no, it did not bother me at all. But the next place was Oakland Museum had a position for museum curator, and I applied, but a whole lot of other people applied at the same time. And so now you're in an auditorium. I don't know, like 150 people or so applying for one job. And so they had the written exam, and then they have the other exam that you had to draw, items that had to be used for the museum, like posters and flyers and publications and stuff like that. So they wanted examples of what you could do. So we all took all these people taking this thing. So at the end of that part, the interview started to take place. And so I go in, they called me in for the interview, but I know all 150 people didn't go in for the interview, just two people were selected. So I go in for the interview, and the person there at that job, he said, now the reason you're here for the interview is because you're one of the people that qualified, but we've already hired the person that's going to get this position and everything. So, and so I said, okay. And then you just keep going. But that's the way, it was just the process. They had to go through all of that interview. I mean, people taking the exam and knowing that they already had hired a person to do the job. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
But,
Mr. Davis, as you share that, as I say, I have a young audience as well. When you, even during the time period that you were interviewing, how did you, I know professionally we feel a certain way about things, and when we have experience in life, we feel a certain way about things. However, at that time, knowing too the nature of America, might I say, this was the second time in a row now you encountered a situation. Were there any feelings of bitterness, or did you just say, okay, this is what it is, and I'm going to keep moving?
yeah, well, no, I just said, well, that they didn't. I just said I'm going to keep moving, just keep working. Now this one was a little bit on the was a little different. I went to this one interview, and I get to the company. Well, once I go in and and present myself, and I have all of my things that I'm going to show to the person what I can do, the work that I can do. When he didn't take me to his office to sit down and talk, I knew something was kind of strange about that one. But anyway, he looked at all out in the hallway. He looked at what I had, and then he says, "Well," he says, "you'll get a job, but I have my boys to think about." And so I knew what that was all about. And I said, "Okay, thank you," and I left. I had, that was only one person that did that. Out of all the people that I talked to, only see, I understood that other stuff about I got my friend I'm gonna give the job to, or already got somebody hired because I like this person, but we got to go through all of this process of procedures and stuff to do this because we just can't up and just give the job to somebody just, you know. But that was the only time. That was the only one that came out like that. Now, but at Point Magoo, uh, I had to do slide presentations, book publications, um, and one thing that we did was the air show. The air show was a big event at that particular facility, uh, and I had to do the billboard publication and and other presentations that had to go with that project. But in this particular meeting, the commander at Point Magoo, there was a military head, there was a civilian head, and then department heads after that. It's a big structure of people. So I go into this particular one, the commander, but normally there would be either admirals down to commanders. There would be an admiral in charge of the military side, all the way down to commander, and it would stop right there. But in this particular case, it was the commander that I had to go make my presentation to. So I went in and I showed him the billboard and the publication and some explaining, this is what we're gonna do and everything. And then out of the blue, he goes, how much money do you get paid for doing this stuff? He says, I have some ideas. and I didn't know what to do, so I started packaging up my little portfolio, putting all my panels inside of the book and everything. And I said, well, okay, I'll present that to my boss when I get back to the office, and I'll let him know that you have some ideas, So I get back, and my boss says, Willie, how did the meeting go? I said, not good. I said, in fact, I'm not going to ever go back to his office. You can't do that. You can't do that. He said, you'll get fired. You'll get fired. I said, well, you just have to do whatever you're going to do because I'm never going to go back to his office. And then, so now the tech director, the commander, and my boss are in a meeting. So this is like 9 o'clock in the morning. And so all day long, the meeting goes on. They're talking. I'm at my office with the door closed. And at the time, Miles Davis had, I think he came out with that Kind of Blue, that album. You know that album. And I put on All Blues. I love that track, so I just played it in my office. I just let it play. So I had the door closed, and I'm in there playing. So now 3 o'clock in the evening. So now we're going from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock. I don't even know if anyone had lunch that day. So they're talking, and pretty soon, a knock on the door, and the commander is coming. He says, Willie, I want to apologize for what I did and everything. And I said, okay. And he said, those rocks that you paint, could you show me how to paint one of those and everything? Now, if you remember the pet rock, do you remember the pet rock? People would buy these rocks and they would have instructions on how to take care of their rock and everything. And so I said, but I'd go down to the beach and I'd get my rock, and it would have the shape of rounded, all of everything. And so I took him down to the beach, and we got this rock. But in the meantime, the ocean is now, the tide goes in, tide comes out, and tumbling of the rocks, and you keep these rocks that are tumbling against each other and everything, and you wonder, how long does it take for a rock to become round and smooth and oblong shaped, all the edges all clean and everything? I said, now here we are down here picking this rock up, and it's one of those things of you got a dispute, and you got a rock that's going to solve the problem of the dispute. And so he painted, I helped him paint the rock, and he was happy. But that was the strange one there. uh, but one presentation I also did was a multi-screen slide presentation. And this particular thing had a slide tray that had holes punched in it. So the old computer, punch cards that used to have to, if the hole is open, that's on, and if it's closed, that's off. Okay, that's the way that projector would work. So if you had a panorama screen and then you had two screens on each end that would operate depending on how you wanted to program it to operate. Well, the program when I got ready to set it up for the company that was going to use it, I ran into a problem. There was a snag where the thing would go out of sync and would keep going out of sync. And so like 3 o'clock in the evening, I'm starting on trying to figure out how to solve this problem. Then we go through the night and I'm still working, trying to figure out how to solve the problem to make everything stay in sync. It took a long time to set it up. And then once you push the button to start, and then it would run, and then it would go out of sync. And then so you set up again, trying to figure out, but you couldn't see it. It was too many things happening. So finally I figured that thing out, and it was like 5 o'clock in the morning, maybe 6 o'clock. And my eyes are all red, and I'm sleepy and tired, and I get this thing to run. And all in the auditorium where it was going to be showed, where they showed it, the guy that I was doing it for, he started drinking martini. I think he just stayed drunk because he didn't know if I was going to solve it. When he figure this thing out. So finally we got it running, and I was so happy. I went home. I didn't go to work that day. That's it. Yeah. But anyway, then we get down to the fact that the engineers were starting to use the Macintosh computer. Now we had the IBM before. That was doing DOS. You had to write your commands, and I had to learn how to write some commands. I didn't know how to write all of them, but you got to tell the computer that you want to save to the floppy disk, and you had to type that in so that the computer knows that's what you want to do. And that was very complicated stuff. But I kept reading books and stuff. And then pretty soon, Apple came out with the Macintosh, and they had what IBM called Windows. They had it already set up, so there was easy. The commands were already written. All you had to do is say, I want to copy this file, and then you copy and point it to places where you want it to go, and then it would go there. And I told my boss that, I said, if we don't switch over to the computer, we're not going to be working. And he said, do you understand all of that stuff about those computers? I said, well, I understand a little bit. I don't know a lot, but I understand enough to try to figure it out. He said, well, you take over that project and you see to it that everybody is changed over to the computer. So he just handed that to me, and I sent everybody off to school, bought the Macintoshes for everybody, and just kept working at it till I got them all trained. Of course, they gave me a hard time. Most of the guys, well, let me see you draw this on your computer, and they would do that to me. And but anyway, after a while, they all learned how to get it all done, and everybody was happy after that. And now this tech director that I was telling you about, he was like hard on engineers. He would like give the engineers a real rough time. I call it eating engineers for breakfast. I said that guy would eat engineers for breakfast. Well, one day the word came, Willie, the tech director want to see you at his office. And I went, oh my God, now what did I do? What did I do? And so I went on over there to his office, and he said, come in, sit down. And I said, okay. He said, well, he says, I never really get a chance to talk to you. So I just want you to come in and so we can talk. And he said, have you bought a house yet? I said, yeah. He said, where do you live? I said, Thousand Oaks. He said, yeah, that's a good community. And you buy any stock yet? I said, yeah, about some stock. And he said, well, that's good. And then he wanted to know about my wife and everything. And he said, well, you got a good wife. And so that was kind of fun that he was kind of concerned about me, but and everything. I stayed at Magoo for 30 years, and then I retired. And what I retired 28 years ago. I retired, and so
Yeah. Now, excuse me. You have given us a magnificent explanation of the graphic art as you progress through it. And as when we talk about graphic art, which I know very little of, I have no expertise, Mr. Davis, of getting on the computer and putting anything there other than some typed written words. So when you started to do your graphic art and getting everyone involved in the computer age, and the individuals, as you've already shared, gave you a hard time and were not happy, how were you able to convince them to continue to work with the computer as far as getting their art and getting their drawings to the computer?
oh well, I had to well, mainly whenever there was a glitch in the computer, that each person using the computer, and then something happened and they didn't know what to do, then I would tell them, I would go solve their little problem. I don't know what to do with something happened and everything, and because a lot of them could do all of their nice drawings and stuff and don't save, and then the power surge come in, and you start over again, because they'd have to learn how to make sure they know how to save the work and everything.
Yes,
But
sir.
they just it once they started. Oh, I forgot something. It wasn't doing a computer wasn't quite that simple. IBM, we started out with one IBM, because now that was good for setting type, but it wasn't good for drawing in pictures. So the Mac was the one that you could do that on. Uh, but I the only program that was available was kind of let me see, a stick figure. You draw a round circle for the head, and then you draw a line for the body, and then put an arm and a leg, and like that kind of thing. And that was about it. And wait, when it started out, but then Adobe Illustrator came, Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator came in, and then that changed the whole thing. Worked out, because those particular programs you could actually do drawings the way you would normally do with pencil on paper and everything. Yeah. But once they decided that they were not going to give me a hard time anymore about it, they learned.
Okay.
But we had to send them off to school and
Yeah.
everything.
Now,
It took a little while.
okay. I'm just curious, and I see one question here from Dana from New York. Dana is saying, in in the during the onset, how did you decide with the graphic art, the color combinations? Am I right, Dana? Am I saying give me a sign up there if I'm asking you a question, because I want to make sure I'm asking what you're asking. Okay, Dana is saying, Mr. Williams, is during the graphic art, how do you match and what process do you use to determine color combination? Okay, color combinations within the art.
Uh, well, I what I would do depending on, you know, if you're gonna, if you, now there's another program called Painter, which you can actually paint. You can paint just like you would paint with a paintbrush and everything. And in Photoshop, there's a color wheel. There's all of the colors that you can combine. You can come the colors that you can combine with each other and everything. But it's right there in Photoshop. So you just go in and you select from the color wheel what colors you want to use and how you want to combine them and everything.
Okay, Dana's giving you a thumbs up, so that's answering her question. Well, listen, I would like to ask, as a person that still can't do graphic art on the computer. I mean, I've bought several programs and that kind of thing, Mr. Williams, and you know, you read information, and I have done pretty decently when it comes to different fonts, that kind of thing. But when I'm, you know, getting and I thank Dana for asking that question, because when it gets to the if you want to insert people, for instance, and dare I none shamefully say, when you have two Kappa men and you decide you want to put something up that's Kappa and you want to blend that, get that red shirt and maybe that graphic and stuff like that, when it's various color combinations, are there programs out there, and you've already mentioned one or two, are there programs out there where you can mix and match colors on the same, and I know people do t-shirts and all of that kind of stuff, but I still find it difficult when I sometimes going on little amateur stuff that I have, is really getting the colors just right.
Yeah, Photoshop is the best one to use for that. Yeah. And
Okay.
I don't, there's not that really, well, there's some other, most, like in, what do you got? In Microsoft Office, they have Publisher in there. If you ever use Publisher, PowerPoint and stuff like that, they have, you know, you can, the best way to do it is to hand draw your thing, scan it in, and then work on top of it. And that way you don't, you're trying to do it on the computer without, you gotta the best thing is just hand draw it and then scan it and then work from there.
That's where I was trying to go.
Yeah.
That's where I was trying to go, and I didn't quite know how to ask the question because it was a lead in off of what Dana was asking about that. So you're suggesting then, are you sharing with us the best way is to hand draw, scan, and then go to that with the color? Oh, okay, that's it. Well, listen, Mr. Davis, I don't want to have you here all night. I know and I'm saying this in an endearing fashion. I know you have your partner in crime here with you, Don Cincone.
Yeah. Oh, let me just tell you about the picture you have behind you there. In that upper right corner there, the Oriental guy there. Well, he invited me to his wedding in Chinatown. Now I thought I was just going to go to an American normal wedding, but when I got there, everybody was dressed in traditional Chinese dress, like from the 15th century and before. And I felt like I was in a time machine that got put in a spot that I was not totally unfamiliar with. And so everybody in the room was dressed in traditional Chinese outfits for me. So I had on just a suit and a tie and all that stuff. And it made me feel strange, but it was fun at the same time. Because I had never experienced anything like that before. And that was really a fun moment right there.
Interesting. Well, listen, I don't want to keep you all night. Are there any parting words, any suggestions you'd like to share with us? Anything you and Dr. Cincone might want to share collaboratively? Please feel free to do so at this time.
Okay. Well, Don, you got anything to say?
Probably, you remember when my family and I moved from Los Angeles to Santa Monica, where you were living at that time as a bachelor, and you let us know when an apartment was available in that same apartment complex. The relationship that took on a new kind of adventure because both you and I had now become adults. And the last time that we actually interacted with each other was in high school. So here I've been to the Army and travel a lot of different places. You travel a lot. And I now have a family and we moved there. And tell them a little bit about some of the things that we found ourselves involved in.
Oh, in Santa Monica?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, Don decided he wanted to have a gallery there in Santa Monica, so we found this this building that a surfboard, a person that built surfboards took over this particular office that was available for us. But when he left, he had all of that resin and stuff all over the floor. And so Don and I had to chip all of that resin off the floor and clean up the whole place and make it look nice. And I guess the guy that was doing the surfboards, I don't know how high he was, but after all that resin smell was like, whoa. and so we did that one in Santa Monica. And then when Don went to the got the contract with Universal Studios, and we went to Universal Studios to see some of the scenes being shot in the movie. And James Garner, he was a real talkative person. All the rest of the stars in the movie never talked too much, but James Garner was a real talker. And so he asked me, he said, Willie, are you that Willie Davis that's always dropping the ball? I said, no, that's not me. That's because I think Willie Davis, the baseball player, had dropped some ball on that he should have caught. And he wanted to know if I was that Willie Davis. I said, no, that was not me. Yeah. But well, I don't know. What was some of the other stuff that we did there, Don?
Well, one of the beneficial things for me in particular was living that close to another artist who understood the life of an artist. And so when he would come in the evening and get his meal, and he had this cat, Siamese, beautiful cat named Bumby, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
and that cat ruled the roost. But anyway, from time to time, I would be exploring different techniques. So Willie was my sounding board to bounce ideas off of him. And one was good enough where he actually bought the painting himself. You remember that painting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Excuse me, gentlemen, it's certainly been great. Mr. Willie, I have to go on record to say for the world to hear, Don Cincone shared with me once before. He said, you really need to talk to Willie Davis. He's a phenomenal artist. He does graphic art, etc. Also, Darryl Triplett was also very complimentary. And I said to these brothers that there's no way we cannot have Brother Davis on the Nobody Asked Me Guy show. So I must go on record, as I said, nationally, sharing that Don is a true friend. He went to bat right away. And as he was sharing with me the things that you do, I mean, he even compared you to Hidden Figures. You know,
that movie was about the same time I was started working at that company.
Yeah,
big computers
man. So,
in the room with and all the engineers walk around with them little cards, stack of cards in their hands, little punch cards. That was how you program whatever action you wanted to take place.
yeah. So I just wanted to give credit where credit is due, and just to share with you, sir, how honored we are to have you as a guest on the Nobody Asked Me Guy show. I look forward to sharing with you again and having you a part. And also, I must say, as I said, with no shame, knowing that you are a great member of the Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity is just a plus. So all of the things that you've shared with us tonight has certainly been appreciated. And the reason, as I shared before, when you see me glancing, just looking at my monitor, and the whole time you were talking, thumbs were going up and hearts were going up, and we always thank our audience. So Don Cincone, as always, sir, you know that we love having you here, and I want our audience to understand, Brother Willie, that Don Cincone has written this great memoir, and he's going to be back with us. We're going to have a night with Don Cincone, and we certainly would invite you back, Brother Willie, to be a part of that program, and hopefully you would join us. And we are saying, okay, Don's holding up his book right now, and he will be joining us again. So, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate very much you're here. And I would like, as we close, Brother Willie, if you can tell our audience how they might contact you, if they have further questions, if they'd like to invite you in to do some speaking or invite you on their podcast. And once you finish, we'd also like Don to share with them how they may get that memoir.
Okay. Well, my email address is lordw@earthlink.net. So, and that you can contact me that way.
And you may get my book titled Time Was Not My Burden, an Artist's Memoir, by contacting Felicia Spears at Felicia Spears 68 at yahoo.com.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that'll be a wrap. Now, one more time, we want the LORDW at earthlink.net. You can contact Mr. Willie Davis there. I was muted when I was repeating it, and Doc just gave you his information. So, guys, listen, it's been great having you here. Mr. Willie O, thank you so very much, sir, for joining us. Doc, thank you so very much for coming to support your dear friend. Again, I want to thank our audience. We want everybody to have a great and blessed Friday night.
Thank you.